Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, and aunts and uncles and cousins, of course, and nanas and papas, or if you prefer, grandmothers and grandfathers, and baseball fans everywhere. Welcome to this Valley Baseball League podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Graham Knight. I am here on behalf of the league and the teams. We are all missing baseball, and we are all look forward to when it returns to the baseball diamond, hopefully really soon. Perhaps none of us are missing it as much or more than Kevin Anderson. Kevin Anderson is, many of you may know, once coached the Winchester Royals team. As I look back over his bio, my first reaction to it is, wow, there's a lot of stuff in here. Joe was recently blown away by looking at a bio on Wikipedia, but I got to tell you, Kevin Anderson's resume really stacks up. So without giving too much away, let me introduce you, hopefully not for the first time, to Kevin Anderson, who joins us now in the midst of this pandemic. Kevin, catch us up, man. How are you holding up?
Well, everything happened so fast, Graham. We were on the road playing at Salisbury. From Salisbury, we were headed to Virginia Wesleyan. From the time that we got on the bus that morning, played the game, the whole world basically changed. Major League Baseball canceled their season. NBA canceled their season. And then the NCAA championships, or the NCAA canceled their championships. So unbeknownst to us, as we were playing the game versus Salisbury, which was a non-conference, I think they were 9th in the country. We were 10th or in that range. We still had 2 more games to play on that road trip. And I'm watching the coach from Salisbury bring in his best pitchers. And I'm like, this is bizarre. This guy really wants to win this game. Not that we didn't. Well, anyway, we ended up blowing a lead. I think we had a 7-3 lead or 7-4. And the first thing he said to me after the game, he said, they came and told me during the game that the season's over. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, by the time we showered and we got something to eat, our season was over. So instead of going in Virginia Wesleyan, they brought us off the road. We got back to Winchester about 2 o'clock in the morning. I had a meeting at 10:30 with our players the next morning at the stadium, and we were told to have them off campus by 12 o'clock. And I want to say that was March 5th or 6th. And the only contact that I've had with my guys are doing what we're doing right now, which is Zoom. So it was just like, what happened? And, I feel awful for our seniors. We had 13 seniors. We had a nice season going. And now we're just sort of, we're still in that limbo. And I miss our guys. I miss baseball. I miss the competition. We had everything in place to redo Bridgeforth Field. I was pumped about that. That was going to help the Royals, the Valley League. I've been in the Valley League so long. The Royals, for example, started in '79. We hosted Ken Chandler and Joey Moffitt. I played there in '82 and '83, and I managed them 5 years. I managed Newmarket 3 years. So Valley League baseball, for me, some of the best memories I've ever had as a player and as a coach come from the Valley League.
Yeah, well, so since we can't play baseball, let's lament some highlights, if you don't mind. Were you there when Dayton Moore was part of the Winchester Royals?
I was an assistant coach at George Mason, and it was Dayton's. I coached him his junior and senior year, but he was a junior college transfer, and we hit it off. And Dayton's senior year was, I think, my second year in Winchester when I was trying to go up the college ladder. And we did all we could, and he did all he could to get drafted. And it was like, what do you want to do if you don't get drafted? And he's like, man, I love coaching. And even when I coached him as an assistant coach, his knowledge of the game, his competitiveness, it was beyond anybody I'd really worked with. I said, well, I hope you get drafted, but if you don't, would you consider coming and being my assistant this summer in the Valley League? And it was sort of like, wow, I'm only 22 or 23 years old.
Right.
I said, you know, it's not going to pay a lot of money, but, would love to work with you and help get you started. And I think we worked together a couple years. And then when I left, he took over. We became best of friends. For you TV land people, I married Ginger. He married Mary Ann, not from Gilligan's Island, but, we still stay in contact, not like we did every day, but, what he has done is unbelievable. When he won the World Series, I was probably the first person of hundreds to blow up his phone. I try to go out and see him and spend a week with him about every 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, to see what he's done and where he got his start, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite stories. I met him in 2016, right after I stumbled into the Valley League, and he said something that just resonates with me. It has for 4 years now. He said, the Valley League is not just for players. I mean, it's first and foremost for players, but it's also for coaches, trainers, umpires, broadcasters. We analytic, cybermetrics. We did 2 podcasts on students who went through the Tom Sox program. One of them's gone off to work for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And but Dayton's Moore story, for some reason, just resonates with me. I love the fact that he stayed with the Royals. It was first the Winchester Royals and then the Kansas City Royals. I love that he came through and then that he won. But, I don't know what it would be if it was the Houston Astros or the Padres or the Cubbies. I mean,
Right.
I guess it would still be kind of cool, but, it's something special about having one Royal go on to be another Royal, or once a Royal, always a Royal. Well, anyway, you did some nice work with him. Way to set him up for success.
Well, it's still talked about. I don't know if you get the magazine, The Athletic. They just did a special on Royal to Royal. Great story. And they interviewed a bunch of his players that he had in Winchester that have gone on to do great things. I got interviewed just to see, where he was from George Mason to the Winchester Royals. And then when he got out of college coaching, because he was at George Mason as an assistant, and went into the Atlanta Braves farm system and basically did everything in that organization and worked his way up to assistant GM under John Sherholtz. And then when he took over at Kansas City, he took a lot of our former guys, a lot of friends with him. And if they could have been competitive in free agency, I don't think you would have seen much of a drop-off. They have new ownership now, and I think you'll see them get back on top.
Yeah, well, it was nice to see what they did in 2015. Hey, while we're kind of on the subject of team building, because it seems to me that Dayton Moore has really figured out how to build a team, that we just did a podcast with kind of discussing one of the storylines that John Leonard likes a lot in the Valley are the D3 players who kind of get a moment in the spotlight. We profiled Michael Wolanski, who came into Charlottesville from Worcester, just blew it up. Was scheduled to come back in 2018, but was drafted by the Astros, and he's in the process of making his way through their system right now. Rick Spires, and in the podcast kind of drew an analogy between the 1980 Miracle on Ice U.S. hockey champions and kind of those Valley League players, in the sense that, is it getting the best talent, or is it getting the right player? Is it giving a D3 player a chance to play on a bigger stage? Because for like Rick Spires, he's talking about, he kind of liked the idea of rising up and playing against the D1 talent. And, one of the things he walked away with was kind of that scene from Field of Dreams where it's like, you were good, kid. You were good.
Yeah.
What's your take on, what does it take to build a team? Is it the best talent? Is it the right player? Does D1, D2, D3 matter? What's your take on all of that?
Well, that's a lot. And what I can tell you is this, and I think you got to always look past, present, future in whatever you're doing. If you look at when the Valley League started, or when the Royals came in 79, for example, or if you go before that, when it had a mix of high school, college, and former pros playing. And then when Major League Baseball started putting money in it, and it was NCAA sanctioned, your premier leagues were the Valley, the Cape, the Central Illinois League. You had the Great Lakes. But now when you look at the number of leagues there are from the Northwoods to the coastal plains, there's so many more leagues. So what has happened, and this is, again, it's just my opinion, and I go back to when I remember we took a Valley League All-Star team. We used to go to Boardwalk and baseball and play against the other leagues. Now there are so many leagues that there's only so many college players that some opportunities for premier Division III kids that maybe at one time didn't get that opportunity is now you're getting that because of the number of leagues and the fact, quite frankly, since Division I has roster limitations and restrictions, we're sneaking a lot of kids in that are D1 ability. You know, for example, for us, you know, we've had 3 players drafted in the last 4 years. We've had 8 guys go pro from a small school like Shenandoah. When they see the success, for example, in the last 5 and 10 years, Shenandoah University baseball has been the most successful program in the state of Virginia of all the programs in the state. When you look at Division III baseball, we have more wins in the last 4 years than any Division III. So, and I'm not bragging on myself, I'm bragging on our kids and our program. So kids that want to maybe get an opportunity to play, make a name for themselves, Shenandoah has been very attractive. The Valley League has been very attractive. It's funny you mentioned the kid from Worcester. We got a dose of him in regionals a couple years ago in Adrian, Michigan.
Oh, did you face him?
Oh, yeah. He hurt us pretty good. And they had some arms. And, you know, baseball, unlike the other major sports of football and basketball, and I'm not knocking them. I love football. I love basketball. But if you look at a major league roster, it doesn't make any difference where you came from. You know, you could be high school, junior college, Dominican Republic, D2, D3. If you look at pro football, you're probably from the Power 5 or an outlier. Basketball only has 2 rounds, and most second rounders don't make it. So the opportunities and the fact that you're going to go to single A or rookie ball and you're competing for a job, where the other sports, you go right to the big leagues. You know, you get drafted in the NBA, you go to the NBA. You get drafted in football, you go to pro football. We're here, a Division III kid that can get a chance, whether it be the Valley League or hopefully into pro ball. I mean, he's starting at the same spot, same location as a D1 kid. And, you know, if we played UVA in football, we'd probably have some body bags laying around. Basketball, we get beat. But if we had the right guy on the mound, and we've had a few of those, we could compete with them. Not every day, but every now and then we might be able to sneak one in.
Yeah, well, you've had some great success. You know, as I look over your resume with Shenandoah University, it's a long list of accolades. Scott Musa, when we interviewed him several podcasts ago, you know, praised your accomplishments. As you think back on the highlights of your career, what are the moments that stand out the most? What are the things that mean the most to you?
You know, and I will hijack a quote from Dayton. I'll never, ever forget this. And this is a long time ago. I can't remember the year that we won the championship together in the Valley League. I guess it was the late 80s. And each one of us addressed the ball club. And I'll never forget him talking about this. And it's really stuck in my mind. He goes, guys, this has been one of the best baseball experiences I've ever had. He said, we won all these games. We did this. He said, but when it's all said and done, you're going to remember the relationships that were formed. And it is so true. When I look back over my short 35-year career now, and you know, a lot of people talk about all the wins. There's a lot of losses in there too, but we won't talk about them. But it's that relationship that you form, whether it be with a player, an umpire, a fan, a coach. That you form these lifelong bonds. And now that I'm getting in the twilight of my career and I start looking back a little bit in the rearview mirror, I've been so blessed. And again, a lot of those memories come from working with Mo in Newmarket. Oh man, Mo Weber, one of my favorite human beings that ever stepped foot on this earth. And I remember the last time that I talked to him, he had the person who was taking care of him come up to our practice, and he was sitting in our dugout. And he goes, Kev, he goes, you know, I can't see very good, but the guy hitting can really hit. And I looked at him. I go, Mo, how'd you know that? He goes, I can still hear the crack of the bat.
Yeah.
He said the ball comes off his bat. And it's funny how you remember those little one-on-one, you know, relationships that you have with people. And I still use that from what Dayton talked about one year when we won the championship in the 80s.
Yeah, we were doing a podcast recently. I believe it was with Mike Bocock early on in the series of podcasts. And we were talking about Dayton had come up to be inducted into the Valley League Hall of Fame. And one of the things that I guess they said there was some questionable call back at a game. I think it was in Stanton or something. And they walk out on the field and they were looking. I don't remember if the ball was in or out. And I don't think they do either. But here's a guy who's already won the World Series. You know, it's decades later, and he's looking down that line, and he says,
"But I do need to do a couple things. One, want to encourage you all to please subscribe, like, and share us.
Moments and the people,
that's super important. Our mission this summer is, since we can't bring you baseball, is to share with you the excitement that happens in the Shenandoah Valley. And if you share it with your friends, you'll help us spread the news. We want to let players and families and fans everywhere know what happens here and why it's so important, and what makes it so much fun. If you haven't tried it, come out and give it a try. 2021 looks like it's going to be your year to do that. There'll be a lot of pent-up demand by that point, so we encourage you to subscribe, like, and share us, and then come and enjoy it for yourself once we're back on the baseball diamond. Also want to encourage your questions, comments, thoughts, criticisms, whatever. Stats, if you got a stat line you want to share it. VBLeague@isomermedia.com. That's VBLeague@isomermedia.com. Also want to give a shout out to our great sponsor, Grace Burrows. Grace helped us back when we were just a fledgling little live stream endeavor. She stuck with us. This is her third year with us, and we are grateful to her for everything she's helped us be able to do.
We carry a very high
reciprocal
roster
relationship, so Grace helps us because her readers help her. So if you haven't given
where most colleges have one program,
definitely encourage you to crack the cover of one of Grace's books.
Well, in Division III, you're allowed to play 40 games.
Endeavor.
Well, we also play a developmental schedule of 31 games. So we play a 71-game schedule where it's such an advantage to play for someone like us, where you're not sitting as a freshman. Looking at the draft now being 5 rounds and limited free agents, I think all of college baseball is going to benefit, but the group that I think is going to benefit as far as talent the most is going to be the junior college baseball. Because once a player goes D1, D2, D3, they've got to stay 3 years. In junior college, they can be drafted that next year, following year. So with the roster limitations, for example, of Division I and Division II, we don't have that restriction at Division III. So I think we're going to get some players, but junior college baseball, I really see is going to go on the upswing as far as talent. And I mean, it's already very good. But if a young man, let's say,
you know,
is that borderline
and share,
draft,
you know where to write us if you got a question and comment. And
well, instead of going someplace for 3 years to be drafted
Grace, thank
again,
you for everything you do. Now
I
it's
look
time
for
to get
some
back
of these
to the
guys
conversation.
To go the junior college route where they could be drafted immediately that next year.
Wow. So there's a positive side. I'm glad you pointed that out. In several discussions we've had on it, nobody's talked yet about what the impact might be on a junior college. So that's really a keen insight, and deeply appreciate that.
Hey baseball fans, Erin Summers here. I hate to interrupt the conversation, but the Valley Baseball League would like to take a few moments to recognize our sponsors. We'd first like to thank New York Times best-selling historical romance author and VBL Uber sponsor Grace Burrows For 3 years now, she has helped make our live streams possible. Be sure to visit graceburrows.com. That's Grace, BURROWES.com, to say thank you. And please note that Grace is wishing everyone in the VBL family the best of happily ever afters. We'd like to thank the Miller Auto Group, proud sponsor of the Northern Division. Although car buying may not be a necessity at the time, the Miller Auto Group would like you to know that they are here for you whenever you are in need. If a new or used vehicle is not the priority, but service is, feel free to schedule an appointment online at your convenience. Visit them at drivemiller.com. That's drivemiller.com to find the sales, service, or parts you need. We'd also like to thank 47, sponsor of the official on-field cap of the Valley Baseball League. Shop your favorite headwear and apparel styles at 47brand.com. They also make official Major League stuff too. So if you're missing your favorite MLB team right now, just think 47brand.com. We'd like to thank Stephen Toyota in Harrisonburg, proud sponsor of the Valley Baseball League Southern Division. Save time when shopping for your new Toyota, Toyota Certified Used, and Stevens Select vehicle when you start your deal online with Stevens Toyota's online shopper system. Visit us today at StephenToyota.com. That's StephenToyota.com. We'd also like to thank Rawlings, maker of the official baseball of the Valley League and Major League Baseball. And finally, we'd like to thank Signs USA for providing awards and banners to the league. When you need a sign, award, or banner, thank Signs USA. SignsUSVA.com. All right, baseball fans, now that we've paid tribute to the sponsors that make what we do at the Valley League possible, it's time to get back to the conversation.
Were you, when I look back at your resume, you came through Warren County. You taught in Warren County for a while, didn't you?
I tell you, I've got a lot of miles. You know, a lot of people are getting frequent flyer miles. I got a lot of frequent bus miles. Just to give you a brief one, you know, I went to James Wood High School, played all 4 sports in high school, went to Georgia Southern as a pitcher, transferred to George Mason as a corner guy, thought I was good enough to play pro ball, wasn't. Taught 3 years at James Wood, coached football, basketball, baseball. Went from there back to George Mason for 2, got my master's, went to East Carolina for 2, was at Madison, James Madison for 6, back to Warren County where I did football and baseball for 5, and I'm entering my 18th year at Shenandoah. So that's a lot of bus rides.
Yeah, that's a lot of bus rides. Nothing like running up and down 81. I know in the off season, I'm glad to take a break from it. But once the season picks up, you know, I kind of miss running through those towns, stopping at Southern Kitchen, getting something to eat, and working my way down south. Hey, so I got to ask you, one of my other favorite all-time Valley League stories is Dana Allison. Is there any chance that you cross paths with him and you're kind of –
It's funny. I saw Dana pitch when he was at Warren County. I was an assistant at George Mason. And when I went in to see him pitch, he had already signed with James Madison. And then I got to coach against Dana. And now, you know, then when he got out and I followed his career in pro ball, and when I went back to Warren County, we became friends. You know, where before we were competitors. And I got to see what he was doing with kids, you know, when he was going back and helping Warren County and work with young guys. When I saw him pitch in high school, I mean, he was a phenom. He was that good. And Dana's a good friend. Don't see him every day. Don't talk to him every day. But, you know, if he called tomorrow, I'd be over in Front Royal. Or if I called him, he'd come over, talk to the pitchers. It's just like the guy that I hired to be our pitching coach this past year, Rick Kraushaw, who played in the Valley League. Helped get him signed for $2,500. And part of that was Valley League with the Cardinals. And I coached him at Madison. And the year McGuire hit 70 home runs, he was LaRussa's right-hand man coming out of the bullpen. He had 57 appearances that year. So to see a guy, you know, you help get signed for $2,500, and now it's come full circle. He's my pitching coach and my recruiting coordinator.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of ties to Madison and the Valley League.
Well, hey, while we're on that subject, because I do want to touch a little bit on Mike Smith, who is now the head coach for the Winchester Royals. Hey, for baseball players who might be looking at this, or parents who are looking at programs for where to send their kids, uh, tell everybody what's happening at Shenandoah. Love that they have the 71 game schedule and that you play kind of a major league model there. What else should people know about Shenandoah University and the baseball program?
Well, we've come a long way. I took over in August 2003. They won 11 games in a couple years, and we played in the USA South, which was a very competitive baseball conference. Now we're in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, which most people rank as 1, 2, or 3 as far as baseball strength. We have tremendous programs up and down. There's 5 programs on Interstate 81 that go from Emory and Henry to Washington and Lee, Roanoke, Bridgewater, Eastern Mennonite, and us. In the middle of the state, we have Hampton, Sydney, and Lynchburg. We have and Ferrum. And in North Carolina, we have Guilford. And then on the east side, we have Virginia Wesleyan and Randolph-Macon. So the competitiveness of our conference, it's phenomenal. We enjoy being a part. The ODAC, when you think of small college, big-time athletics, that's one of the first conferences that comes to mind. And we're just proud to be a part of it. I could not be happier with the university for making a commitment to baseball and softball in the Winchester, Frederick County area. August 1st, we will take over Bridgeforth Field. The plans are to turf Bridgeforth, to expand the dugouts to 70 feet, expand them width-wise, eventually new lighting, new batting cages. We want to really clean up by putting nice offices in there. And the Valley League is really going to benefit from that with the Royals playing there. Mike Smith, who is a very good friend of mine, he's hired some of my former players. We stay in contact. I've tried to recruit some of his guys. I haven't been able to get any yet. But we would send some of our best players. From the time I've been in coaching, our best players, whether I was at East Carolina, James Madison, or George Mason, we would try to send to Winchester, and we still try to do that. This is going to help Mike a lot in recruiting. It's going to be a beautiful complex. I'm talking about Bridgeforth. It was built in 79. Hell, in 79, I looked good. Played there in 82 and 83. So I've got a lot of games on that field. The field right beside it, which is Rotary, that's going to be an all-turf complex that's going to be used by our softball team and Winchester baseball, because collegiate softball and Little League baseball, the dimensions are very similar. So that is going to be an awesome complex. The university is committed to repairing and cleaning up Bodie Grimm, for example, which is the upper field. That'll be the home of the Hanley judges for practice. They'll be able to play games on Bridgeforth. And then we're also redoing Hinkle Harris Field, which is on the upper field for Hanley softball. So we're going to transform 4 of the fields. 2 of them will be all turf, and that's going to be a nice little complex. Eventual plans down the road, indoor batting cages, hopefully locker rooms, the LED sports lighting. I was out in Seattle. That was the first place to do that. To give you an idea, the turf, the way it's going to look will be very similar to Dallas Baptist or James Madison. So we're excited about that, and we hope, talking to the president last Friday, it's still on the radar. We hope the virus doesn't kill it. But one of the things with this virus is the uncertainty. Will we have baseball? What's college going to look like in the fall? If we're online in the fall, there won't be athletics. That's a little scary.
Yeah, that is a little scary. The future may be uncertain, Kevin, but I can tell you what you've done for the Valley and what you've done for the players you've touched and the coaches who've worked with you and gone on to greatness is nowhere near uncertain. And I am grateful for your time, and I'm sure they're grateful for all the effort and all the craftsmanship and wisdom you've taught them. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, just, everybody be safe. We'll be stronger. We'll be more competitive when we get through this. Can't wait to get back to Valley League baseball games. It's been a huge part of my life as a player. I go back, we won it in 82 and 83 as a player. I got to play for Joe Carbone and Dave Howard. Some of the guys, Mark Davidson made it to the big leagues, played with great guys. There were a host of characters. Every now and then I'll still get something from them. I know the Royals have done a really good job on trying to keep us old alumni, bringing us back once a year. I would never miss one of those. Jim and Betty Phillips are very special people in my life. The Ships is just, I can't think of what my life would have been like, quite frankly, without the Valley League.
Yeah, or me either. So that is a perfect place to put a bow on this, Kevin. I can't think what my life would be like without the Valley League either. And I didn't even like baseball until I stumbled on it. So it made a believer out of me. Listen, thank you so much for your time. And on behalf, I've said this all season, I'm going to say it for the rest of our season this year. Even though we're not playing, we're replaying the games. We wish you and everybody else you're connected to and everybody in baseball perfect health and a speedy return to the baseball diamond. My hat's off and a deep debt of gratitude to Kevin Anderson formerly with the Winchester Royals baseball program, but with, as you heard, a long list of others, and currently with the Shenandoah University program. Kevin, thank you so much.
My pleasure.